Hey, this is Cole with Big Deal Marketing, and you're watching What's the Big Deal NWA?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey y'all, this is Cole Brainerd with Big Deal Marketing, and I'm here with Ken, the Director of Brewing at Rendezvous Junction in Rogers, Arkansas. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Cole.
That's awesome. So we found this little spot a couple years ago, and we've been frequenting it. We love to come here, and so we just wanted to come in and explore what's going on here. Ken, can you tell us a little bit about Rendezvous Junction and the history of this brewing company?
Yeah, so Rendezvous Junction was opened in 2016. It was founded by my boss and kind of my mentor, Mike Pearson.
Okay.
He and his son-in-law, Levi, had gotten into making home brews after a trip to Denver and out west, where they really fell in love with the craft beer scene and decided they want to try it out on their own.
That's awesome.
They brewed for a few years at home and then eventually started a small brewery at what used to be Foster's Pint and Plate, which is now Angus Cantina. So that's where we started out in 2016, and up until about 2018, 2019 when Foster's Pint and Plate shut down. We continued to operate in a smaller capacity out of there until Mike actually approached me and asked me if I wanted to help him start this place. So
awesome.
We opened our tap room here in 2021.
2021. Well, the name Rendezvous Junction is pretty interesting to us. What's the story behind that?
So Rendezvous Junction comes from the idea that we wanted to have a place for people to come together and meet each other. So Rendezvous Junction, you know,
Cool.
This is the place where we bring taste and buds together.
Tasting buds. I love that. That's awesome. So what are some of your favorite beers to make, and what are some of your favorite beers to drink?
So, you know, I started out drinking craft beer when I turned 21.
Okay.
You know, before that was whatever the guy with the fake ID had. But when I started drinking craft beer, it was all stouts, local stuff like the Ozark Cream Stout from Ozark Beer
Cool.
Company.
That's awesome.
And I developed like a taste for IPAs and sours and super heavy pastry stouts after
over
that.
the board.
Yeah, all over the board.
Nice.
But now anymore, you know, I'm in a brewery all day. I like to drink something light and simple. Like this is our Grillin' and Chillin' Light Lager.
Chillin' light lager.
I love Pilsners, I love Hellas's, but yeah, hey, cheers.
Thanks, man. What kind of notes am I going to be tasting in this light lager when I go through it?
So because it's a typical American light lager, what we really want you to taste is your kind of Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light profile with that craft flavor and feel. So it's got a little bit more body to it than you would experience when you're drinking like a mass-produced light beer. It's got a little bit more hop profile, but it's super approachable for the person who's not a regular craft beer drinker.
Interesting. I love that.
Because it's light, because it's drinkable, I love it, and people around here do too. So
That's sweet. So I know you guys are a part of the Arkansas Brewing Guild. What is your favorite part about being in the craft brew industry, and what are some things people might not know that goes into the everyday to-day workplace?
So when I was 21, I started working in tap rooms as well.
Awesome.
And I fell in love with the community that was working here in beer places like Core, beer places like Ozark, like they have now at Natural State, Bentonville Brewing Company. It's a really tight-knit community. We're super competitive, but we're also super collaborative. So there's a dozen guys I call right now and ask them for advice if I don't know how to do something, or if I was like, man, I really like this beer I had the other day, what the heck did you do to it?
Nice.
So that part of it, because we're not competing so much against each other as we are against the big guys at Miller Coors and AB InBev,
Exactly.
we're elevating each other as an industry by helping each other out, as well as competing with each other to have the best beer as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's an interesting point. I've never considered that. The brewing industry scene is a little bit more tight-knit and reliant upon each other than most people would really expect.
absolutely. I mean, as a minority market share
Gotcha.
of beer, we've got to make each other better so that we're more valid among beer drinkers who like to drink, you know, your old Natty Light.
Yeah, you got to break into that industry of people who have settled upon the first beer that they were handed in college and have them experience something a little bit different.
Yeah, we're trying to change the culture a little bit.
What is the strangest pairing of flavors you guys have tried to bring to a beer in Rendezvous?
So right now we actually have our Sweetie Pie Key Lime Pie Sour. That beer was one of the hardest beers I've ever brewed when we brewed it up to a big batch, but it's got 100 pounds of graham cracker. It's got lactose, so milk sugar, Corinthi cinnamon. It's got things like, well, what else is in there? You got your cinnamon, Madagascar vanilla bean. That stuff really helps to set it off.
Secret ingredient.
Key
okay.
lime juice, oh yeah. And we hand scrape it all too, so those beans come whole. It's not an easy job.
We're gonna have to blur the secret ingredient out of the filming so nobody can get it.
That's all right, that's all right. They can know.
So it's for people that like dessert after dinner and a drink after dessert, but this is everything in one.
Absolutely.
It's the key lime.
It's a super complex beer, and it does taste like you're drinking key lime pie.
That's awesome. And you guys have some of that on tap?
Absolutely, it's on tap right now.
That's awesome. How have you experienced the Northwest Arkansas culture as it plays into the brew scene?
Well, so there's a lot of beer festivals out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I mean, and craft beer is like, cool.
It is
so we see a lot of people. We have had a few local celebrities come by every once in a while.
Cool.
But I think mostly it's tying in your community of bikers who really like craft beer. You see that with places like Bike Rack. You get a Columbus House as well down in Fayetteville. But really, it's more of your middle age. Maybe I don't want to go out and really party hard late at night. I just want to go have a nice beer and hang out. So we try to create an environment, a community. You mentioned winter time, so we've got a big indoor space. People can still stay cozy when it's cold outside.
Yeah,
but,
that's awesome. I know Rendezvous Junction is starting an effort to build on. Right now we're in a very impressive building, but just outside they're building a beer garden. What kind of events are you guys planning for that, and what kind of features in the beer garden are you guys hoping to share with?
So we're really hoping, and this has been planned out, to have nice large outdoor fireplaces, the stuff with propane heat, so it's not smoky.
Gotcha.
But also, we're going to have a nice covered patio with good shading areas. We're going to do live music. We're going to have craft fairs. We're hoping to eventually, host our own beer festivals here.
That's awesome.
But that's hopefully that expansion will be finished in the coming months in March. They're also, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, they're building a USL soccer stadium right here in Rogers.
I follow them on Twitter.
Yeah, so that's actually going right across the street from us.
Really?
So we've been making a really big push to try to get the soccer fans in here, because eventually, this will be the place to be.
The place to watch it. The
Absolutely.
place to see it all happen.
We're also excited to welcome our neighbor. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cheers at the old post office in Fayetteville. They're opening up another location right next door to us.
Right next door.
So we'll have full-time food as well.
That's sweet. People can have a beer, walk across the beer garden, right into Cheers.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I love how everything seems to be all in one place.
It is.
So I know a lot of breweries are a part of what's called the Northwest Arkansas Ale Trail. It's where you can go on a day or 2-day jaunt, a weekend trip across Northwest Arkansas and stop by every brewery in the area. Do you guys have any plans to join the Ale Trail and get on that passport system?
Absolutely. So we actually technically joined the Ale Trail very recently. So they've got a new round of books coming out. So be sure to go and pick up your new books next time you're at the Chamber of Commerce or down at a brewery who carries them. But we do have a really nice stamp. So we'll stamp you if you come in here. And if you got your old book, I'm sure we can find another place to put it too. So we're on the Ale Trail now, and we're glad to be a part of that with all of our other fellow breweries here in Northwest Arkansas.
That's awesome. Well, I really love this beer, and I got to see how it's made. So do you think you could give me some behind the scenes?
Absolutely. Come on back and I'll show you.
Yeah, let's see. So Ken, where are we, man?
So right now in our dry storage, this is where we keep all of the malts that we use in our beers. We use something like 30 or 40 different types of malts from all over the world. So over here we got a little American, German, we've got, looks like Irish, Belgian, UK malt. So all of this is mixed in certain capacities, and we use our recipes based on which percentage of grist you use. Darker roasts make darker beers. So like this right here, to make a real dark beer.
That's awesome.
We run it through our roller grinder right down here and send it up to our grist tank, where we eventually combine it with hot water.
Excellent.
From our mill, we send it up to our grist case where it rests there. We combine it with hot water in our grist hydrator so it gets all good mush to it. We don't want any dry spots or big old balls of grain. That eventually comes down to rest in our mash tun, where it'll sit for a little while, and then we'll pump it back over the mash bed so all that grain acts as a natural filter. Once it clears up a little bit, we send it over to our kettle where we put it to boil, and boiling stabilizes the beer. That's also where you'll add hops. You might add different adjuncts like lactose or honey or maple syrup. Today we're actually making a kettle sour, so kettle sours will stay in the kettle at around 95 degrees for 3 days until the lactobacillus, which will pitch in a little while, actually sours the beer naturally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scientific, very scientific.
From there, we pull it through our heat exchanger, cool it way down, send it out to one of these fermenters where we'll add yeasts and other adjuncts like that cinnamon I was talking about earlier. And it ferments for about 3 weeks to a month. Then we cold crash it, so we cool it way down, get it to about 33 degrees, and then we take any leftover particulate out of there through these bottom hatches and carbonate it later, and then you got a done beer.
That's awesome.
Put it in a keg and put it in a glass.
So do you want to take us through and show us some of the beers that you've got going on right now?
So in this fermenter right here, we're working on our Lollygagger Double IPA. So it's still fermenting, so you're going to have a lot of yeast still left over in there, but you're going to be able to taste some of the hops that are in there and a little bit of that bitterness left over from the boil.
Right here. Cheers it up.
Cheers.
Tastes like beer.
Yeah, that's about done. But yeah, so we've got 4 10-barrel batches, 4 5s. So what we'll often do is brew a 10-barrel batch and split it into 2, put it on 2 different fruits or 2 different hops. And then over here is our pilot batch system, which is really cool because we're able to make all kinds of new beers without really worrying if it's going to turn out, like, if it turns out bad, then flush it down the drain and start over, you know?
That's awesome. So it seems like you have to be a little bit of a mad scientist to start experimenting in the kitchen with beers.
Absolutely. I think the cellar, or where all the fermenters are, as a buddy of mine says the cellar is where the art happens. Most of the science happens up in the brew house.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. So what do we have here, Ken?
So over here, these are what are known as fooders. These are all handcrafted in St. Louis, Missouri. They are all American white oak barrels that are used for aging beers. What the special thing about fooders is that we can do what's called a Solera on an oak. So this will fill with a full batch of beer. We'll also pitch certain yeast called Brettanomyces. It's a very pervasive yeast, and a lot of brewers don't like to use it because it can cause infections, but we're good cleaners around here.
Nice.
So this is filled with beer that will eventually sour and develop some really funky characteristics. And then when we're ready and we think it's ready to go, we'll empty about half of it, and then we'll put new beer on top of it. So it's kind of like a sourdough starter.
Cool.
You know, so it's always working. It's developing new characteristics as the
That's
different
awesome.
generations of yeast propagate.
So the longer it goes, the longer you guys keep running it, the more complex it'll taste?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
That's exactly it. Eventually it'll become our own in-house strain that lives in this American white oak.
Making life.
Yeah.
Right here at Rendezvous Junction. All right, Ken, it's been really awesome talking to you, man. Where can people find you on social media?
So you can find us on Instagram. Just search at Rendezvous Junction is our handle. You can also find us on Facebook. We have a website out there, rendezvousjunction.com. Keep an eye out. We have lots of different events coming up. We also do bingo on Tuesdays and trivia on Wednesdays with our employee MC, old Stevie B. He's a really good entertainer, so we'll have you out.
Hey, catch old Stevie B, guys. All right, only thing left to do is cheers.
Cheers.
This is Cole Brainerd with Big Deal Marketing, and you're watching What's the Big Deal NWA.